So I got a new turbo, CXracing. It's supposed to be a GT3576R clone, but it's not. So you can check out the last video and find out actually what it is. But long story short, it's a 82mm compressor wheel with a what looks like a GT30 size exhaust housing. So should be interesting. The compressor wheel should theoretically outflow the exhaust side by quite a bit, but at least maybe it'll spool relatively quick. So I'm going to go ahead and work on getting the T3 off. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and just pull the bumper and all the stuff off the front, so it gives me a lot of room, because I'm going to need that room to fabricate the downpipe and all that stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and tear the car down. I'm not going to film it because, you know, you've already seen all that type of stuff before. So alright, so you can see with the front end removed, have all types of room for activities. You know, turbo's right there, so this makes it a lot easier to get in there and work on stuff. So a few areas of concern with the new turbo is the clearance between the exhaust manifold and the housing. On the new turbo, it looks like the clearance between the compressor housing and the exhaust manifold. On the new turbo, it seems like the compressor housing is like right up against the flange, or about equal with it. So I feel like it's probably going to be pretty close, especially if there's any protruding areas on the compressor housing. The next, of course, area of concern is this area down here. It's not a big concern because I can just, you know, this can be moved. This can be flexed a certain degree, or it can just be reran. And then, of course, the downpipe. I'm going to a 3-inch downpipe, so it's already tight in there. Hopefully, there's enough room for a 3-inch downpipe between all of this stuff. Should work. So I'm going to go ahead, get the turbo off, and give the new turbo a test fit. Nice shot of old versus new there. It's really not that much bigger than the TO4E, but the fact is, everything on the turbo is still loose right now, so that I can rotate the housings. This thing's also lighter than the TO4E, which is kind of strange, but what I'm most curious about is if this pipe is going to work. Like, it might actually be kind of perfect. Yeah, shit, look at that. That might be great. Yeah, that looks starting to look like a downpipe there. A couple little tacks hold it in place, and yeah, that should work. I didn't realize quite how bad that was. It's a pretty big gap there. But I think I can probably put a few more tacks on there and then just kind of, I might be able to hammer that down. Maybe if I heat it, get it to shrink up a little bit. We'll see. Is that a mosquito truck? Thank God. Oh, yes it is. Holy shit. Thank Jesus. If you don't live in Florida or any place that's prone to having a really bad mosquito problem, you'll never understand the excitement you feel, the relief you feel when you hear the mosquito fogger drive by. Doesn't really quite get them. Alright, so this is the midsection of my exhaust. Yeah, it ain't pretty, but you know, it works. So basically, I forgot to record because it's late and I was just wanting to get it done. But at here, it transitioned down to 2.5 and then to a V-band. So what I want is for it to continue to 3-inch, since I now have a 3-inch downpipe. So I think I'm just about ready. I just have that piece of pipe held on with magnets. And I think I got just about, it's a little cocked right there, but just about got it straight. So once I get it straight, I'll go ahead and drop some tacks on it. And then probably call it a night for tonight because it's like 10 o'clock and I'm sure my neighbors hate me. Alright, so I got the midsection of the exhaust all kind of finished. Well, that's old, don't worry about that. Here's the funny thing about welding. I think there's a hole there. Yeah, it's definitely a hole. So here's the funny thing about welding, is that when you don't do it enough, it's really hard to kind of get good at it. Like, I know all the principles and stuff, and I do it so infrequently that I kind of forget good practices and whatnot. So it's like, I'll start here and end up looking like this, but then I'll remember how to actually MIG weld, and I end up with something like this. You know, so usually what happens is that I'll start a project, it looks like this, and then by the end of the project everything looks like this, and then a year later I'll start another project and I start back over here and then end up back here, and it's kind of a cycle. So maybe I should just do more stuff in the middle, you know, just play around, keep up the skill. But doesn't matter, it'll hold. I need to touch up a few spots here. There's some holes and stuff in there, but touch that up. That's welded on. I can put this piece back on the car. I've got a piece of wire around here somewhere. So here's my rod. I'm going to use as, actually that's not the piece. This is the piece. I use this as my exhaust hanger. It's a little bit smaller than the standard hanger, but it'll work. It's sturdy enough. So I got some marks on here. This is where the mounts are. So it's the exact length of how far the mounts are on the car. So I just need to put some hooks on there. Try and heat it, bend it, put some hooks there. That'll be where the mounts will rest. Weld this smack dab in the center, and then it should be ready to go back on the car. Alright, so I got the exhaust hanger on. The only thing I'm not really pleased about is that I probably should have made these hooks smaller, like small enough to fit the actual bumper, the hanger, so that it doesn't allow it to move around too much. But should be alright, I think. If not, I can probably put like hose clamps or something on there to keep it from moving. Or what I could do is maybe cut this old one in half and use that as a spacer. That sounds like a good idea. Anyways, I got the other half of the V-band welded on. I'm gonna get this portion back on the car, and then I'll get the downpipe cut to the right length so I can kind of get this all fitted up, because it's probably gonna take some wiggling. So this way I'll have some play in it to get things aligned right, and then I'll tack it in place, and then I can spin the V-band loose, take the downpipe off, and then weld the whole downpipe up and basically be done with it. Let's go. Alright, so this is what we have so far. We've got the exhaust back on. One of the problems I had was the exhaust was hanging really low, so I went ahead and made sure that it was tucked up real nice and tight inside the tunnel, because it always looked like it was about to drag on the ground. It's still hanging kind of low, especially back there, but you know, it's better than it was. So anyways, here's the business end. Here's something that's pretty funny. This wasn't intentional at all. This is just all by chance that this managed to match up like pretty much perfectly. Like, if I wasn't putting a flex section in there, I could just weld that together and it would be a perfect fit. And it was 100% by chance. But it's not what we're doing. We're going to be putting a flex section in. So what I have to do is cut about 4 inches off the downpipe. Then I can slide this all together, butt it all up, and then I can tack it. And then we should be good to go. I can tack it, and then I can take this V-band off and take the entire assembled downpipe off and put all the final welds on it. Slide this on there. Should go on pretty snug. Get it on all the way. Alright, so that's on there. Come up here. Make sure this all still lines up. Oh, sorry. That should all line up, and what I'll do is I'll get a V-band on there, get a clamp on there, tighten it up, tighten up the clamp on the bottom, put some tacks on it. I can take it all apart and put the final welds on it. Alright, so yeah. I forgot to order a bong, so what I did was I went and got a spark plug defouler. They're the same thread. I just went ahead and cut the end off. And that's what we see here. If you ever do this, you want to make sure that the proper amount of the O2 is sticking out, and that's how it should be. So I just need to drill a hole in the downpipe and plop that in, and I can weld that in along with finishing the downpipe. Alright, so the downpipe is basically done. Just went ahead and sprayed some paint over all the welds so that they don't rust. Yeah, it's not pretty, but it'll work. I went ahead and I smoothed out the inside of, tried to make it as smooth as possible. There's still obviously an edge there, but it's a lot better than it was. It's a lot better than it was. So anyways, yeah, so got that. Got the O2 bung welded on. Once again, pretty hideous welds, but you know, whatever, they're functional. Grind it down where I had to close up those slits at. because it was pretty ugly. Yeah, so I went ahead and grind it down where those slits were. And like I said, I threw some paint over it, but I'm gonna wrap it in some heat wrap, hide some of the ugly, keep some of the heat in. I gotta clean up in here. It's a fucking disaster. Before I get any further, before I get to finishing the turbo install, right now it's just bolted on for mocking purposes. I gotta make a new oil drain line. Shouldn't be too bad. And while this is off, I'm gonna go ahead and address this. Yeah, I got probably what would you say, a third of the radiators obscured by, you know, headlight or the or this metal here. So I'm gonna cut some of that out. At first I was just gonna cut the whole thing out, like when I first put this together, but I feel like that's a pretty important support for this top beam. So I don't want to cut the whole thing out, but I do want to cut a bigger opening there. And then I kind of want to maybe work on some type of ducting. You know, I really don't know how, but I think just cutting that out will probably help a little bit. I mean, like I said, it's a pretty large portion of the rad to be obscured. I could probably honestly move the radiator back over. I moved it over because it was too close to the downpipe, but now the downpipe's further away, so I mean, I realistically could probably move the radiator back over so that it's completely in the open again. That's for another day. It may not seem like a big deal, but you'd be amazed at how just every little bit helps. So I guess I'll spray a little paint on there, keep that from rusting. Alright, so yeah, you know, it's not so bad looking when it's all covered up. So this wrap is it's pretty nice. I was using yeah, in the past I'd always use like the eBay stuff, you know, because it was like a lot cheaper. So I went ahead and actually sprung for the DEI stuff, and it's pretty amazing. I gotta say, just as far as being able to use it, like wrapping stuff, almost makes it worth the exorbitant price they charge for this stuff. I mean, it's super stretchy, you know, I don't know, it's real nice. So it's worth the $20 for 6 feet, I guess. Although this stuff, also this stuff, you know, it did the job and it lasted and didn't get blasted off like I thought it would. I also painted it though to help protect it, but we'll see how that stuff goes. So yeah, I'm gonna clean up because it's a fucking disaster. And yeah, so